When I walked into the hall that day, I already knew the world I had built was about to crack. I saw him there, my ex-husband, standing at the altar, holding her hand, the woman he had been seeing behind my back, the same woman he laughed with in my own home while I pretended not to notice. I had canceled all our joint cards months ago, erased his name from my life as best I could, but seeing him there, smiling and waiting for a new life, it struck me harder than I had imagined. I remember standing at the entrance, my coat pulled tight around me. I felt calm, almost like I had rehearsed this moment in my mind 100 times. People were whispering, offering congratulations. I didn't want to shout. I didn't want to cry. I just wanted them to see me, not the angry, bitter woman, but the woman who had survived. I could feel the sting of betrayal, yes, but it was wrapped in years of quiet endurance. And now, here, at his wedding, I was going to say something, one sentence that would settle years of hurt without a sound. I took a deep breath. I looked around the hall, the flowers, the soft music, the laughter that felt hollow to me. And then I saw him, clearly, fully, without the haze of memory or nostalgia. I realized something important. He didn't have me anymore, and he never would again. My life, my dignity, my choices, they were mine alone. I didn't need to fight. I didn't need to plead. I just needed to speak truth. People glanced at me as I walked down the aisle toward the exit, where I would pass him. I could see their curiosity, the silent question in their eyes. Why is she here? But I didn't care. I wanted him to hear it. I wanted him to understand in the quietest, simplest way that the life he thought he had stolen from me had already been reclaimed. And so I said it. One sentence, not a scream, not a dramatic scene, just one line, calm, steady, unwavering, something that cut through the noise without raising my voice. The words hung in the air for a moment, and I watched as his smile faltered, as his confidence wavered, as he realized that the woman he had tried to erase had not only survived, but she had grown stronger in ways he would never understand. I walked out then, slow, deliberate steps. The sound of my heels on the floor matched the rhythm of my heartbeat. I didn't need to look back. I didn't need validation from anyone. That single sentence, delivered with quiet strength, said more than years of arguments or confrontations ever could. And as I stepped into the sunlight outside, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. That day, I realized that the most powerful revenge is not anger. It is calm. It is dignity. And above all, it is living your life fully without them. If you've ever faced betrayal or heartbreak, remember this: your life, your dignity, and your happiness are yours to protect. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more real-life emotional stories. Before all of this, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the wedding I would attend just to reclaim my own dignity, my life had a rhythm. My mornings were quiet, filled with the smell of coffee and the soft hum of the neighborhood waking up. I lived in a small house I had bought with my own hands, the one place in the world where I felt entirely in control. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and it had always been enough. My family had always been my anchor. My 2 children, grown now, carried pieces of me in them: the resilience, the laughter, the stubborn streak that refused to let life break me completely. My daughter, Jasmine, called me her rock, and my son, Marcus, often said he hoped to inherit my sense of calm when things went wrong. I loved them fiercely, even when they drove me crazy with their teenage chaos years ago. They were my pride. My life wasn't perfect, but it was full. My ex-husband, well, he was different. Charming when he wanted to be, loving sometimes, but there was a darkness I didn't always see at first. Over time, little cracks appeared. Missed calls, late nights, excuses that never quite added up. I tried to ignore them, tried to tell myself that love sometimes comes with imperfections. But the truth was, he had chosen another life while still holding on to mine, and I, being who I am, chose not to let that define me. I remember the moments before everything fell apart, the quiet dinners at the table, the way he would laugh at things that weren't funny, the subtle ways he made me feel less than I was. I had friends who noticed, who whispered caution, but I didn't want to believe the warnings. Love, after all, makes us blind sometimes. I wanted to believe in him, in us, in the family we were building. And then, one ordinary afternoon, I discovered the truth. A message on his phone, a careless slip, a pattern I could no longer ignore. I felt my heart tighten, my chest ache, and my world tilt. But even then, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I sat down, took a deep breath, and reminded myself, I am more than his choices. I am my own woman, my own life. That's when I began the process of reclaiming myself, canceling cards, changing locks, cutting ties that no longer served me. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. It was love for myself, the love I had been putting last for far too long. And little by little, I felt strength returning, a quiet fire that no betrayal could ever snuff out. Even now, I think about those days, how ordinary they seemed before they became extraordinary in the lessons they taught me. My family, my home, my sense of self, they were my true wealth, and I realized something profound. No one could ever take that from me unless I allowed them to. If you've ever faced betrayal or heartbreak, remember this. Your life, your dignity, and your happiness are yours to protect. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more real-life emotional stories. Even after I had reclaimed so much of myself, the tension didn't disappear overnight. It lingered in the small moments, the quiet reminders of a life that could have been. I would see him in the neighborhood sometimes, at the grocery store or walking past my home, and the air would feel heavier for just a second. I had learned to breathe through it, to remind myself that his presence didn't define my peace, but the small cracks in my heart whispered reminders that trust, once broken, is never fully mended. At first, it was subtle, the way he would call my daughter or son, asking unnecessary questions, the way mutual friends tried to drop hints about his new happiness. I kept my distance, smiling politely when needed, but inside, a quiet storm brewed. I wanted to protect my own heart while still being polite to people I had once loved. I wasn't angry. I had learned that anger only burns the one who feels it. But I did feel cautious. Every conversation, every glance was measured, deliberate. The small tensions began at family gatherings, too. My children noticed the shift before I did. "Mom, why do you seem different?" Jasmine asked one night over dinner. I paused, fork in hand, realizing that my attempts at calm composure were more visible than I thought. I told her softly, "I'm just learning to stand taller, baby, that's all." Marcus, usually quick with a joke, didn't press further. He could sense the change, even if he couldn't fully name it. Then came the moments that tested me most, the invitations, the casual mentions of events where he would be, the knowing smiles from people who assumed I had fallen apart. Each one was a choice: retreat into sadness or hold my ground and walk with quiet strength. And every time I chose the latter. I realized that life doesn't pause for betrayal. Life keeps moving, whether we like it or not, and we either keep up or we let it leave us behind. Even in my own home, the conflict found a way in. I would hear my thoughts at night, whispers of regret or what if, the memories of years I had invested. But I began to counter them with reminders of my worth, my accomplishments, my resilience. I wrote letters I never sent, spoke to the mirror, and sometimes laughed at how stubbornly human I was. Those quiet, private acts became my armor, my preparation for the moment when I would finally speak my truth, calm and unshakable. And so, tension grew like a shadow at the edge of my days. Small misunderstandings, deliberate omissions, even casual glances, everything was heightened because I had learned to see clearly. My heart had been hurt, yes, but I was no longer a victim. I was a witness. I watched the cracks form, not with fear, but with understanding. I was preparing for the turning point, the moment when everything would either shatter or be reclaimed. Even now, I can feel those days in my bones, the quiet stress, the rising awareness, the slow build of tension that shaped the woman I was becoming. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was real. And real, I learned, is always stronger than fantasy. The day of his wedding arrived like a storm I had prepared for but never welcomed. I dressed carefully, not to impress, not to seek attention, but to remind myself that I was stepping into that hall as a woman who had endured, survived, and grown stronger. I carried no anger, only a calm determination. My heart was steady, my voice ready for the one sentence that would speak years of truth. As I entered, I felt the familiar weight of eyes on me. Friends, family, strangers, all curious. They whispered among themselves, guessing why I had come. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Every step I took toward the back of the hall reminded me of every moment that had brought me here. The lies, the late nights, the heartbreak, the quiet rebuilding of my life. Each step was a reclaiming of power I had almost forgotten I possessed. And then I saw him, my ex-husband, standing there with her, smiling as if the world belonged to them both. My chest tightened for just a moment, memories flashing, our laughter, our plans, the life I thought we had shared. But then I reminded myself that life no longer exists. He had chosen differently, and I had chosen me. I approached him slowly, calm, deliberate, like water carving its path through stone. I could feel his eyes meet mine, a flicker of surprise, maybe guilt, maybe fear. I paused, took a breath, and spoke, not loudly, not dramatically, just a single sentence, steady and clear. It carried the weight of years, the truth of my dignity, and the quiet strength I had nurtured. He froze. I could see it, the sudden falter in his confidence, the momentary panic as he realized the woman he thought he could erase had not only survived, but had become unshakable. Around us, the music played softly, the guests smiled politely, but nothing could fill the silence that my words had created. It wasn't cruel, it wasn't spiteful, it was final. It was enough. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't need one. I turned and walked out of that hall, every step lighter than the last. With each footfall, I felt my heart heal a little more. I felt the years of betrayal, the sleepless nights, the quiet fears fall away. Outside, the sun touched my face, warm and forgiving. I breathed in the freedom that comes only when you finally release the weight of someone else's choices. That moment, that turning point, wasn't just about him or her. It was about me, about reclaiming my life, my dignity, my peace. And in that calm, quiet victory, I discovered something beautiful. The most powerful statement a person can make is living fully, even in the face of betrayal. If you've ever faced heartbreak or betrayal, remember, strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just one sentence, one choice, one step forward. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more real-life emotional stories. After I left the wedding, the world felt different. The air seemed lighter, the sky brighter. Even the familiar sounds of the neighborhood carried a softer rhythm. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's choices. I was simply me. And that realization, quiet as it was, brought tears I didn't fight. Not tears of sorrow, but tears of relief, of release, of survival. I returned to my home, that small sanctuary I had built with my own hands. Every corner, every photo, every piece of furniture held memories, not of him, not of betrayal, but of my life, my children, my victories. I sat in the living room, letting the silence wrap around me. It was peaceful, restorative, like the world itself had paused to let me breathe. Over the next few days, I reflected on everything that had happened. I thought about the years I had spent forgiving, the nights I had cried quietly into my pillow, the moments when I had questioned my worth, and I realized something profound. The pain had shaped me, yes, but it hadn't broken me. Each hurtful moment, each act of betrayal had taught me the value of my own strength and dignity. I spoke to my children about it, not in anger, not in dramatics, but with honesty and calm. Life doesn't always turn out the way we plan, I told Jasmine one afternoon. People may hurt us, even those we love, but what matters is how we respond. We choose our path. We choose our peace. Marcus nodded quietly, understanding more than he could express. I could see the lessons reflected back at me in their eyes, in the way they treated others with care and honesty. That, more than anything, felt like a victory. I didn't go looking for him after the wedding. I didn't need closure from him because I had already found it within myself. Instead, I focused on the small joys I had neglected: long walks in the park, evening tea on the porch, laughter with friends who had stayed when others had gone. Life moved forward, slowly at first, then with a steady, comforting rhythm, and I moved with it, learning that letting go isn't about forgetting, it's about living fully, without letting past pain dictate the present. And though the memory of betrayal will always be there, it no longer holds power over me. It's a part of my story, yes, but not the whole story. The rest of the story is mine to write, filled with hope, dignity, and the quiet strength that comes from surviving life's hardest lessons. In those moments of reflection, I realized that the most profound growth often comes from the deepest wounds, and while I wouldn't wish betrayal on anyone, I am grateful for what it taught me, that I am stronger than I ever believed, that my life is my own, and that even after heartbreak, peace is possible. As I sit here now, years after all of it, I sometimes think back to that day at his wedding, the day I spoke my one sentence and walked away. I remember the calm that settled over me, the quiet power in simply standing tall, and I realized that the story didn't end there. That moment wasn't the end of pain, nor was it the end of growth. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I was finally the author of my own life. Life has a way of teaching lessons slowly, in whispers rather than shouts. The betrayal I endured could have left me bitter, angry, or distrustful, and for a while I did feel the sting of sadness and regret, but I chose another path. I chose to focus on the things that truly mattered: my children, my home, my friends, and most importantly, my own sense of peace. It wasn't easy. There were mornings when I woke up thinking about the past, evenings when memories tried to pull me back into old pain, but I learned to greet those thoughts with calm, to let them pass without holding on to them. I've come to understand that forgiveness isn't always about the other person. Sometimes it's about freeing yourself. I didn't forgive him for what he did. I forgave myself for ever giving him the power to define my happiness. And in doing so, I found a freedom I had never known. Every smile I shared, every meal I cooked for my family, every quiet evening in my home became a reminder that my life was mine, fully and completely. There's also a simple joy in remembering that peace isn't loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It grows quietly in the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you hold your head high even when no one is watching. That is the kind of strength that lasts, the strength that no betrayal, no heartbreak, and no mistake can ever take away. So if you're listening to this story, I want you to remember something. Your life is yours. Your happiness is yours. Even in the darkest moments, even when someone tries to take what belongs to you, there is always a way forward. It may be quiet, it may be slow, but it is always there. And when you take that step, when you claim your peace, you discover a strength you didn't know you had. And now, I live in that quiet strength every day. I smile without hesitation, love without fear, and walk through life knowing that no one else can define my worth. That is the gift I have given myself, and it is priceless. If my story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more real-life emotional stories. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them most. Looking back now, I realize that life has a quiet way of teaching us lessons we might not see at the moment. At the time, betrayal felt like the end of everything I knew, like the foundation of my world had crumbled beneath me. But with the distance of years, I see clearly that every heartbreak, every disappointment, and every tear was a teacher in disguise. One of the first lessons I learned is the power of self-worth. I had spent so many years trying to hold on to a man who didn't deserve me, trying to preserve an illusion of love, an image of family. But when I finally let go, I discovered that my value wasn't tied to anyone else. My strength, my dignity, my happiness, they were always mine to claim. And that realization changed everything. I no longer waited for validation from anyone. I no longer allowed someone else's choices to define my life. Another lesson is about patience. Healing doesn't happen overnight. Rebuilding your life after betrayal is slow, like planting seeds and waiting for them to grow. I learned to be gentle with myself, to allow time to work its quiet magic. I discovered that little moments of joy, laughing with my children, enjoying a cup of tea on the porch, hearing a song that reminded me of good times, were just as important as any grand gesture. They were the stitches that mended my heart. I also learned that forgiveness is often for yourself, not for the one who hurt you. I didn't forgive him for the pain he caused. I forgave myself for ever letting him control my happiness. That was the turning point. Once I stopped carrying anger, resentment, or fear, I felt free. I could walk through life without the weight of the past on my shoulders. And freedom, I realized, is far more powerful than revenge. And finally, I learned the value of calm strength. It's not about loud declarations or dramatic confrontations. True power comes quietly, from knowing who you are, standing firm in your truth, and moving forward with grace. That calm strength is what carried me to the wedding, allowed me to speak my one sentence and walk away without needing anyone's approval. It's what continues to carry me every day. If there's one thing I want anyone listening to take away, it's this. Life will test you. People may betray you. Heartbreak may come in ways you never expect, but the love you have for yourself, the respect, the patience, the courage, is the foundation that will never fail. That foundation is what allows you to rise, to heal, and to live fully again. And now, when I look back, I don't just see the pain. I see the growth, the strength, and the life that was waiting for me all along. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every quiet step forward, it was worth it. As I sit quietly now, reflecting on everything, I realize that life has a rhythm that carries us, even when we think we've lost control. The pain, the betrayal, the heartbreak, they were all chapters in a story I never wanted to write, yet they shaped me into the woman I am today. A woman who knows her worth, who moves with quiet strength, and who cherishes every moment of her life. I often think about the younger version of myself, the one who gave so much love, so much trust, and sometimes so much power to someone who didn't deserve it. I want to tell her that it's okay to hurt, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to feel lost, because those moments, as painful as they are, teach you things you can't learn any other way. They teach you resilience. They teach you patience. They teach you to love yourself first. Now, when I see my children laugh, when I sit in my kitchen and hear the quiet hum of home, I am reminded that peace is possible. Life continues, and it is full of beauty if we allow ourselves to see it. I learned that the real victory doesn't come from revenge, confrontation, or proving someone wrong. True victory comes from reclaiming your life, protecting your heart, and living with dignity even when no one is watching. And there's a gentle power in remembering that life is not defined by what others do to you, but by how you respond. I responded with calm. I responded with strength. I responded with love for myself. That is something no one can take away. That is something I carry with me every single day, and it has given me a joy that is quiet, steady, and enduring. I hope my story reminds anyone listening that even when life hurts, there is always a path forward. There is always a way to find peace, to heal, and to rise stronger than before. It's not about the one who betrayed you, it's about the life you create after. It's about embracing your own worth, protecting your heart, and choosing happiness for yourself. If you are facing heartbreak, betrayal, or loss, remember this: the most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. Stand tall, speak your truth, walk forward with quiet strength, and trust that your life, with all its joys and lessons, is yours to live fully. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more real-life emotional stories. Your support helps us share these stories with people who need them most.